Andrew, there's big news in the world of entertainment this week, and it is that Rebel Wilson, the Australian actress, has received or been awarded a massive damages payment for defamation in a court case brought by her against Bauer Media, publishers of Women's Day and the Australian Women's Weekly. A jury found in June that she had been defamed, that the imputation was that she was a serial liar, that there was a campaign by the publishers against her at the time in May 2015 when Pitch Perfect 2 came out, and that as a result of that campaign, over a period of 18 months, she missed out on a whole bunch of roles that she might have had. And not roles specifically, just that because of the trajectory of her career at that point in time, she would have been expected to pick up a series of roles, possibly as many as 4 movie roles, each of those worth about $5 million. The judge decided that he'd round it down to 3 roles at $5 million, that's 15 million US, and then rounded it, did various calculations, discounted 80% for what she would pay to agents and tax and so on.
Of course. Ended
up with a figure of $3 million US. Yep. Converted that to Australian. The payout was something like $3.7 million, plus there's another $650,000 in just a standard damages payment. This is a huge sum, $4.567 million. Mm-hmm. She's likely to be awarded costs, and that could be as much as another $2 million. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason this is significant, just apart from the immensity of the sums involved, which are far in excess of any defamation payment ever awarded in Australia before, the reason it's significant is that it blows a massive torpedo hole in the side of celebrity gossip sites. It really is the biggest blow to their business model you can imagine. It says that if you publish stuff that is untrue and defamatory, and the person about whom you write these stories has the potential to earn lots of money and then doesn't, they can sue you for those lost earnings. It is quite remarkable.
That's always been the case, though.
Don't know that it's actually always been the case in terms of projected lost opportunity.
Oh, okay. Yep,
that element is really quite significally, outside the norm. The sum itself is really outside the norm.
What I meant was that you have always had the right, if you were defamed, to seek a legal redress.
Of course,
and often,
and rightly so.
And often nothing comes as a result, or it becomes something that's settled and it doesn't actually reach the trial stage. And that could have happened, couldn't it? This could have all been a lot cheaper for this. What is it called? Bauer Media.
Yes,
could have been significantly.
Well, she offered to settle it before it went to court for $200,000, and they said, "We're going to take you to court and prove that you're a liar." And they resoundingly failed in that mission. No. This court case ran for like 20 days. It's
it's not very long.
It's a pretty long case,
long,
I think.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
in this realm, I think that's pretty
right.
big. She was on the stand, I think, for 3 days.
Okay.
She was in tears at various points in time. Whether her distress is actually of the level and seriousness that she's indicated, who knows? Only she can judge that. But only she can know that. But it's been judged that it was real.
So this is a precedent now. Somebody writes a false article about somebody in the public eye, and their career suffers coincidentally. They can now say the old Rebel Wilson versus Bauer Media case of 2017.
I don't know how much it will set a precedent. I mean, I spoke to Peter Bartlett, who's a renowned defamation lawyer in Melbourne, and he said that he didn't think it would set a precedent, but it does kind of put out a flag, and that there will probably be a lot more actions taken in this kind of space as a result of this verdict. So people will be thinking, hang on, what they said about me wasn't true. I didn't like it. It caused me hurt, and I think it had a negative impact on my earnings.
Okay.
Therefore, I'm going to go to court. So it does actually, it's really quite a challenge to those sites. I think a lot of people will have sympathy for Rebel Wilson, who has also vowed that she's giving the money to charity and to help the Australian film industry. If she actually does that, and I think, it's incumbent upon the media to actually keep an eye on whether or not she follows through on those promises. But if she does that, it's sort of like, well, it's not about personal gain. It's about a principle, and people have a lot of empathy for that sort of stand.
Yeah.
I think people are very wary about celebrity gossip media anyway, and rightly so.
Yep.
And the defence that was used by Bauer was that it was trivial, that nobody would take it very seriously, and that everybody kind of knew that it was sort of like in that space, that not very serious kind of assertions about her lying about her age and so on didn't count for a hill of beans.
Okay.
So
good for her.
Good for her, and be warned, celebrity media.
Good for her. I don't like that type of gossip media, and so I'm not sorry that if they've been defaming someone, they've been sprung for it. Can they afford to pay that money? Will it mean that they close down, that they will cease to exist?
I don't think it means they will close down. Bauer is formerly ACP, which was part of the Packer empire. It's now owned. Bauer is a German company. All those publications were off-sold.
Okay.
I suspect they have pretty deep pockets. I suspect they'll be pretty furious about this, and they will almost certainly appeal it. Perhaps coincidentally, perhaps not, their CEO left the company a few months ago, Nick Chan. May or may not have been related to the verdict back in June. There are those who say it was and those who say it wasn't. But it's certainly not a good look for a media company to be looking at, if costs go against them, we're talking north of $6 million. That's a huge sum to have to absorb in a difficult publishing environment.